Hello everyone! Well, this is our last lesson on the pudding like a night on the sea. And I'm going to read you the second half of this great story. And then you will have heard the whole story. And I would like you to write a one-paragraph summary of the story. What does that mean, to write a summary or to summarise? Well, I've tried to explain it here. So if you look at the red writing, to write a summary or to summarise means when we've got something which is quite long or with lots of details, we summarise it is writing a very short version for somebody else. And it's a short version, but it's got to still include the most important things that that other person would need to know to understand what is going on. So a summary should be quite short, so with just one paragraph, but you still got to clearly explain the main things in the story, the main points of the story. So, first job is to read the stories. I'll make myself a bit bigger and I'll hold up the book. And do you remember where we're up to? There isn't much left, I said. We were supposed to leave the pudding alone, Hughie said. We'd better get away from here, I said. We ran into our bedroom and crawled under the bed. After a long time, we heard my father's voice. "Oh, come into the kitchen, dear," he said. "I have something for you. It's a special treat." "Oh, why? What is it?" my mother said, out in the kitchen. Under the bed, Hughie and I pressed ourselves to the wall. We tried to make ourselves as small as we could be. "Look," said my father, out in the kitchen. "A wonderful pudding!" Where is the pudding?" my mother said. "Where are you, boys?" my father said. His voice went through every crack and corner of the house. We felt like two leaves in a storm. "Where are you?" I said. My father's voice was booming now. Hughie whispered to me, "Julian, I'm scared." We heard my father walking slowly through the rooms. "Hughie," he called. "Julian!" We could see his feet. He was coming into our room, and then he lifted the bedspread. There was his face and his eyes like black lightning. He grabbed us by the legs, quick as a snake, and pulled. "Stand up," he said. We stood. "What do you have to tell me?" "We went outside," Hughie said, "and when we came back, the pudding was gone." "Yes," I said. "Yes, I think it was a bird or a cat or a tiger." "Is that why you were hiding under the bed?" my father said. "From a tiger?" We didn't say anything. We looked at the floor. Perhaps the tiger had been a bad idea. "I can tell you one thing," my father said. "There is going to be a beating here. There is gonna be some beating. And I'll tell you something else. There's gonna be some whipping. Oh! The curtains at the window were shaking. Hughie was holding my hand for dear life. Go into the kitchen, my father said, right now. We went into the kitchen. Come here, Hughie, my father said. Hughie walked towards him, his hands tight behind his back. See these eggs, my father said. He took an egg and cracked it on the edge of a bowl, and then he put the yolks in a pan and set the pan on the counter. He stood a chair by the counter. Stand up here, he said to Hughie. Hughie stood on the chair by the counter with the eggs. Now it's time for the beating, my father said. Hughie started to cry. His tears fell in with the egg yolks. Take this, my father said, and he handed him the egg beater. Now beat those eggs, he said. I want this beating to be a good beating. I want this beating to teach you something useful. I want you to learn how to make a nice pudding. Oh, 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 Hughie said. He stopped crying. He sniffed a few times, and he started to beat the egg yolks. Now you, Julian, you are older, and you should know better. You stand here, my father said. I stood on a chair by the table. I hope you're ready for your whipping. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to think. I was afraid to say yes or no. Here, he said, and he set the egg whites in front of me. I want these egg whites whipped, and I want them whipped well. I want this whipping to teach you something useful. Yes, sir, I said, and I started whipping. My father watched us. My mother came into the kitchen, and she watched us. After a while, Hughie said, Oh, my arms are tired. This is hard work. That's too bad, my father said. Your beating's not done. You've got to learn your lesson. And he added sugar and cream and lemon juice to Hughie's pan and put the pan on the stove. And Hughie went on beating. My arm's hurting from whipping the cream, I said. That's too bad, my father said. Your whippings are not done. You're still learning your lesson. So I whipped and I whipped, and my arms were tired, but I did a good job. And Hughie beat the eggs, and he beat them, and he beat the mixture, and he was tired, but he did a good job. Hold that beater in the air, Hughie, my father said. Hughie held the egg beater in the air. See, my father said, this is the lesson. A good pudding stays on the beater. It's thick enough now, you can see it sticking onto the egg beater. Your beating's done. Then he turned to me. Let's see those egg whites, Julian, he said. They were puffed up and they were fluffy. Congratulations, Julian, he said. Your whipping's done. He mixed the egg whites into the pudding himself, and then he passed the pudding to my mother. Mother took a spoonful. Ooh, that's a wonderful pudding, she said. Would you like some, boys? No, thank you, he said. It's for you, Mum. We'd never take something which is yours. She picked up a spoon. Wow, this is delicious, everyone. This tastes like a whole raft of lemons. This tastes like a night on the sea. And here is Mum, enjoying her pudding. And that's the end of the story. So, what we need you to do is, and I'll make myself a bit smaller again, to summarise the story. Remember, you've got to write me a paragraph now. You've got to write a paragraph. It's useful to think, what does your reader need to know? So, you need to put a title. Here's the title, underlined. My summary of the pudding like a night on the sea. You need to write a sentence to introduce it, just so your reader knows what this is about. So maybe you could just do, this is a summary of the short story, The Pudding Like a Night on the Sea. Or maybe you could add a little bit more detail. This is a summary of the short story, The Pudding Like a Night on the Sea, which is a very funny short story. And maybe we could include some information from the next question. Who wrote the story? The story was written by Anne Cameron. And then we've got to give some information. Who are the main characters? Well, the story's about three main characters. Dad, Huey, and Julian. What should we know about them? Well, the main thing to know is that they are two brothers, Huey and Julian, quite young children, and very lovely children, but not the best at following rules, perhaps a little bit naughty. They make what happens at the start of the story, the two boys make a pudding for their mother with Dad. What happens in the middle? Well, this is the bit where Julian and Huey do exactly what they're not supposed to do when they eat the pudding. What happens at the end? Well, you can explain that. And you only need to write me one good quality paragraph. And this is not a review. So in a review, you would say, what do you think about this? Your opinion. This is not a review. A summary normally is just a short version, the main facts or the key points. A summary is more factual. I hope that I'm going to see your paragraph summary of the story soon. Okay, see you soon everybody. Bye. Hope you enjoyed the story.